Welcome back to All This Math. If you're here, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. All right. If you have any questions about anything that I cover and try to explain in this video, please put your questions in the comment section down below. All right. And also share this video with somebody, at least one other person. All right. Now, what are we doing today? We're talking about words per minute, right? Now, not typed words per minute, but read words per minute. So oftentimes when you might get an email or with an article, article or one of those online, publications. You might get an email from an online publication, or you might go into an app for an online publication. One thing I notice is that what they'll do is they will tell you how many words are in the entire article or in the entire newsletter, right? They'll tell you, right? Because oftentimes, people have limited time and, we have a lot of responsibilities. So these people that, are giving us these articles and whatnot, they want to kind of give us an idea of how much time it might take us. So they'll tell you how many words, right? So in this particular example that I found, it was an article I was looking at a couple weeks ago. And it said that the newsletter is 893 words. Then it also said that this is a 3.5-minute read. So first of all, 3.5 minutes. Just to be clear, this does not mean 3 minutes and 5 seconds. That is not what that means. All right. 3.5 does not mean 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And this, people, right? If you are a person that thought that this meant 3 minutes and 5 seconds, or even if you thought it meant 3 minutes and 50 seconds, that's a problem. That means that we have an issue with fractions. We have an issue with place value. 0.5. What does 0.5 mean? 0.5 is a decimal that is equivalent to 1/2. 1/2 of the total amount. That's what 0.5 means. So in this case, since we're talking about minutes, we're talking about half of a minute. So half of a minute is not 5 seconds. It's not. Never will be, right? At least not in the time system that we're using right now, right? A whole minute is 60 seconds. So a half of a minute would be half of 60 seconds. Half of 60 is 30. So therefore, 3.5 minutes is 3 minutes and 30 seconds, right? Just like a quarter of an hour is not 25 minutes. It's not. A quarter of a dollar is 25 cents. But a quarter of an hour is a quarter of 60 minutes because an hour is 60 minutes. An hour is not 100 minutes. If an hour was 100 minutes, then of course a quarter would be 25 minutes. But an hour is 60 minutes. So we have to know the denominator essentially, or we have to know the whole amount that we're taking the fraction of. In this case, 0.5. And I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but it seemed relevant. So I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did get this idea, right? So 0.5 is not 5 seconds. All right. It ain't 5 seconds. Right. So just like if this was money and you saw 3.5, that would not mean $3.05. That's not what that means. 3.05 is $3.05. 3.5 could also be written as 3.50, which will be $3.50. Again, 0.5 is a half. Half of what? If we're talking about money, half of a dollar. How much money is half of a dollar? 50 cents. $3.5 is $3.50. All right. So anyway, back to the original question, right? We got a newsletter. It's 893 words long. They're telling us that it's a 3.5-minute read, but you ever stop to wonder, how do they know that? How do they know it's a 3.5-minute read? Just like when you ride on the highway and you see the digital display that says that the next exit or a particular exit is 20 miles away and it will take you 30 minutes to get there. You ever stop and wonder, like, how y'all know that? How you know it's going to take that long? It's an estimation that they're making on the highway because they're assuming you're going to be driving a certain speed, right? They assume you're going to be driving a certain speed. Just like here, the people that write this newsletter are assuming you're going to be reading at a certain speed, a certain amount of words per minute. That's why I'm asking the question: how many words per minute is this? Because for one, if we do this, we're practicing math, and one way to get good at math is by actually practicing math. So it's important to practice math. And you might be wondering, well, why do I need to be good at math? Because if you're good at math, you'll be good at critical thinking. And you need critical thinking to be a responsible human being and not be taken advantage of in the society that we live in. Also, if you're good at math, you'll be good at problem solving. And if you're a human being, you're going to be approached with problems, and you want to be able to solve your problems instead of just having your problems just fester and linger and then make your life worse and worse and worse every day, right? And make you miserable. You want to be able to solve your problems. So the same skills that you use in math are transferable, and you can use those in an everyday situation where you have any type of problem, right? Whether you believe it or not. I'm telling you, you can. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be dealing with formulas and X's and Y's and equations, but it's a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of training your brain how to think. So that's why we need to be good at math. So this is an opportunity for us to practice math, right? And also to just think about like, yo, like, how did they know this, right? Because oftentimes we just accept whatever we read or we accept whatever we given, right? We accept whatever we hear on TV or we hear on social media. But you ever like stop and ask yourself, like, how do y'all know that, right? So there's a formula, words per minute. Words per minute, the word per is a fraction bar. Words would be your numerator. The amount of minutes would be your denominator. So what they're saying is that 893 divided by 3.5 gives you a certain amount of words per minute. Per means divided by, right? So let me write that down. Actually, let's do this. So words per minute, WPM, words per minute. The word per means divided by or fraction bar. The total number of words, 893. The number of minutes, they say 3.5 minutes it should take. So once I divide this number by this number, that's going to give me the anticipated words per minute that a person would read, right? What if you ain't the typical person? So 893 divided by 3.5 equals 255. I didn't mean to do that. That equals 255 words per minute, right? So they're saying that they expect that a person reading this would be able to read 255 words per minute. Now we can ask some questions. What if I'm a fast reader? What if I read 300 words per minute? What if I read 350 words per minute? Right? That means it wouldn't take me this long to read this newsletter, right? Or what if I'm a slow reader, right? What if I'm a slow reader? I tend to be a slow reader. I like to take my time, right, when I'm reading, right? So what if I only read 200 words per minute? Then that means it's going to take me longer than 3.5 minutes. So I bring this up, and I wanted to do this problem because, you know, this is an example of where we can either just accept what we're being told, or we can use math to do a calculation and then question some things. Because quite often we don't question nothing. We just believe whatever our iPhone tells us. We believe whatever your Android tells you. You know what I'm saying? You believe whatever Siri says. You believe whatever Alexa says. You believe whatever Chat GPT says. You don't question nothing. You believe whatever you read on the website. You don't try to verify information. That's an important thing to do. Verify information and to know how to verify information. So don't be one of these people that just says, well, I don't need to know how to do this because I could just ask my iPhone. Well, don't you want to be able to verify that what your iPhone is telling you is correct? Why would you just want to believe your iPhone just because, right? Because the iPhone has apps on it and programs on it that are written by people. And how do you know that somebody that wrote the app or, you know, programmed the app or created the program or the website is not trying to manipulate you and get you to believe in something that's not true so that they can take advantage of you? How do you know that? Or why do you take for granted that somebody wouldn't do that? So it's not as simple as just saying, well, I could just use my iPhone. Okay, maybe you're right. But shouldn't you be able to verify what your iPhone tells you? Shouldn't you be able to verify what your Android tells you? So this is just an example of, you know, we read the information. They say, oh, 893 words. This is a 3.5 minute read. My first question is, how you know? How you know that? Okay, it's a simple mathematical formula. And then you say, okay, well, if you're saying that, then that means that this is based on a person reading 255 words per minute. So now we can start having some conversations. Because like I said, what if a person doesn't read this fast? That means that it's going to take longer, right? It's going to take longer. Just like if you're driving, if you drive a slower miles per hour, a slower speed, it's going to take you longer to get to the place. But if you drive a faster speed, then it's going to take you less time than maybe that highway display said, right? So all I'm saying is we don't have to just accept everything that we're told. We can actually use math as a tool to figure some things out. Because we can be like, okay, you saying this, all right, cool. But what if we don't abide by this? What if we don't read 255 words per minute? What if we read faster than that? Then this number changes. What if we read slower than that? This number still changes. So what I'm saying is we should get into the habit of questioning things. And we use math as a tool to be able to question things in a more legitimate way. That's all I'm saying. All right. So I suggest you do this whenever you like looking at an online article or online newsletter, and they give you that information, tell you how long of a read it's going to be. Question it. You know, it can't hurt. It gives you an opportunity to practice using math, math is a good skill because I already told you, math leads to critical thinking ability and math leads to problem solving ability. Two things that you desperately need. Every human being needs problem solving ability and critical thinking ability at all times. All right. So, like, if you didn't hit the like button, go ahead, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you got any questions about anything I talked about, put your questions in the comment section. And please share this with somebody. And I also want to give a shout out to the Upward Bound program at UPenn that I used to teach at. Taught there for like 6 years. Started out there teaching history and then made a transition into and became the math teacher. Right. So shout out to the students that I worked with at the UPenn Upward Bound program. Most of them came from West Philly, went to schools like Sayre, West Philly High, Overbrook. Where else did they come from? Bartram. I think some of the kids came from Bartram. I can't even remember where everybody. Motivation. Yeah, some of them went to Motivation. Most of the West Philly schools, that was like the catchment area for the UPenn Upward Bound program, that I worked at for a while. Before that, I worked in the Upward Bound program with the military veterans. I taught that program for 3 years. That was another great experience working with adult learners. So, different type of situation, but still a great experience. So yeah, definitely shout out to the Upward Bound program at UPenn. And all the students that I got the chance to work with, some of the instructors, I guess, and administrators. Definitely like some of the administrators, they were solid too. But all right, think about problems like this when you see them online. See this type of information online, and I'll see y'all on the next video. Peace.